Nervousness in the White House is palpable. The hug of the triad in Tianjin has put Trump in a tight spot. He seems to be losing it completely. His advisor, Navarro's remarks are an indication of that. From repeatedly calling Bharat a laundromat for Kremlin and calling the Russia-Ukraine war as Modi's war, a frustrated Peter Navarro has now said that Brahmins are profiteering at the expense of Indians and that Indians must understand what's going on here. We need to stop this profiteering of the Brahmins. Navarro's remarks find resonance with what the leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi said earlier in March this year and last year in August when he smacked off leftist ecosystem sentiments. Last year, Rahul Gandhi said, and I quote, "If Dalits are failing exams set by upper castes, let Dalits set the exam paper and make upper castes take the test." This year, he went on to say, "There is a completely flawed concept of merit where I confuse my social position with my capability. That notion of merit is actually itself an unfair idea. The entire narrative is an upper caste narrative." Listen in.
अमेरिका में जैसे हमारी IITs होती हैं, उनका जो टॉप एग्जाम होता है उसको SAT कहते हैं। और जब SAT पहले लागू हुआ तो एक अजीब सी चीज आई कि जो अमेरिका में गोरे थे वो सब टॉप कर रहे थे और जो काले चमड़ी वाले थे वो इतना अच्छा नहीं कर रहे थे। फिर एक आदमी ने क्या किया, एक प्रोफेसर ने, उसने कहा एक चीज चेक करता हूँ, जो पेपर लिखे गए थे ना, उन्होंने वो पेपर कालों से लिखवा दिया। सिर्फ उन्होंने कहा कि ऐसे करते हैं, पेपर कालों से लिखवा देते हैं और फिर वही एग्जाम दे देते हैं। पता है क्या हुआ? गोरे सब फेल हो गए। अब अगर आप मुझे कह रहे हो कि IIT का जो एग्जाम लिख रहे हैं वो सारे के सारे अपर कास्ट के हैं और दलित फेल हो रहे हैं, तो फिर एक काम करो, दलितों से लिखवा के दिखाओ। So the entire narrative is an upper caste narrative. This notion of merit is actually itself an unfair idea.
This target Brahmins formula has worked for centuries. Colonial rulers, missionaries, and later the left camp have repeatedly used it to divide society, and they have often succeeded. The critical race theory, which is also piloted and parroted by certain ultra-left narrative pushers, is also an example of the same. Now, Peter Navarro's attack saying Brahmins are profiteering at the expense of the Indian people while defending tariffs on India is a clear attempt to turn an economic issue into a caste-based stereotyping. In doing so, he surprisingly echoes leftist talking points. In Bharat, the left ecosystem has long pushed similar anti-Brahmin narratives in the name of social justice, blaming one community for most social and economic problems. This shows a strange convergence. The right in America, Navarro, and the left in India, the so-called intellectual ecosystem, are both using similar cultural codes to target Brahmins. Thinkers like Rajiv Malhotra and Arvind Neelakantan argue that these ideas are not entirely Indian in origin but are amplified by Western institutions, NGOs and global funding networks, including those supported by George Soros, aka the Breaking India forces. Now, Rajiv Malhotra does not specifically name George Soros, but he does stress that such discourse is shaped and spread by Western-backed systems, not just local debates. He warns that academia, media and digital platforms are pushing what he calls Breaking India 2.0, deepening caste and identity divides to weaken Bharat's unity. The irony is hard to miss. Peter Navarro, a man of America's far right, and Bharat's far left voices end up on the same side. Both, though, for different reasons. Weaponize anti-Brahmin rhetoric, exactly the thread Rajiv Malhotra had warned nearly a decade and a half ago. Now, there is this entire counter defense of Peter Navarro saying that he was quoting the Boston Brahmins, aka the Boston elite, who controlled the Boston businesses in the past. Now, even there, this entire attack of elitism using the phrase Brahmin falls flat when it comes to the defense put in front. Quite weak. Meanwhile, intel sources have further confirmed to CNN News 18 the exclusive input shared with us by Network 18 Group Editor Investigations and Security Affairs Manoj Kumar Gupta on George Soros' anti-India toolkit and the Trump nexus. Indian agencies have raised concerns on the Soros funding and anti-Bharat toolkit pattern. Intel sources have said that the anti-Bharat toolkit shapes Trump's perception through narrative warfare, how negative opinion about Bharat has invaded the Oval Office, and Navarro's anti-Brahminism rhetoric is nothing but Soros-backed toolkit. Media optics have pressured Trump to distance from PM Modi despite strategic needs. False viral videos of protests and unrest shown as instability, and Bharat as a risky partner. Peter Navarro's use of caste-based rhetoric against Bharat's Brahmins highlights that they are using Russian oil trade to make profit. According to top intelligence sources, Trump's inner circle is affected by toolkit narratives which has reached the White House indirectly through media, think tanks and the diaspora. Intel sources have maintained that Soros-linked funding agencies, OSF and SEDF, spent $1.7 billion globally in 2023, with Bharat as the prime target since 2023. The Enforcement Directorate probes into Bharat show 25 crore direct transfers from Soros-linked SEDF to Root Bridge Services, Root Bridge Academy and ASAR under consultancy disguises. 300 crore rupees was routed via Mauritius-based Aspada and Bengaluru advisory firms to Indian social impact startups. Raids in Bengaluru in March 2025 uncovered $2.9 million had entered Bharat through consultancy and FDI treated as FEMA and FCRA violations. Indian entities like Amnesty International India, where operations halted in 2020, and Oxfam India, which was charge-sheeted by the CBI in 2025, were clear cases of foreign funding for sabotage. Intel reports further suggest that bodies like the IAMC, Justice for All, Hindus for Human Rights, lobby US Congress, organize hearings on Jammu and Kashmir and the CAA. They multiply the narrative against Bharat. Soros-linked media, ProPublica, Intercept, produce negative Bharatiya coverage, and they are feeding anti-India debates in the United States and the European Union. Toolkits are already in place and they work effectively on different issues like Jammu and Kashmir and the lockdown, CAA, NRC, farmers' protests, minority rights, press freedom, and they are also working on the Election Commission's Bihar SIR exercise, which is also currently under probe. Now, how does this entire toolkit work? The first funding comes in and then is routed into NGOs or a consultancy, and these agencies then create a toolkit which is later amplified through media and diaspora. These toolkits ensure that narrative becomes media stories and think tank write papers, and they later go to the US and European Union for hearings and later become discussion topics at the UNHRC. According to agency sources, narratives enter Trump's office indirectly, and then the hostile media and State Department reporting it then play an important role. In Bharat, the same toolkit works to go in for legal cases, protests, reputational damage, and to also put pressure on civil society. The overall goal of this toolkit is to weaken Bharat's global standing, delegitimize its democratic credentials, and constrain foreign policy autonomy. Top intel sources and agencies have also warned of these kind of toolkits in the past too. Soros-linked media coverage have consistently highlighted Bharat's democratic fall, creating a wall between the Indian and the Trump administration. The toolkit not only weakened the Trump-Modi chemistry, but it was also attempted to portray Bharat as a high-risk partner with social problems, pushing this entire anti-Jammu Kashmir, anti-CAA and anti-minority narratives. Now, with Bharat poised to become the second largest economy with 34.2 trillion in GDP by 2038, as per estimates made by the Ernst & Young report, these toolkits are likely to join more anti-Bharat forces to push an anti-Bharat propaganda. But Bharat will power on. Like Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, the world is counting on Bharat.